creators. You're all, I mean, everyone that has a cell phone is creating content, is telling a story. Every time you take a picture and you post it, you're creating part of a global story about how we represent women, who women are, how we relate to women. So when you turn on the television and you're somewhere, and sometimes you're internationally, you see these commercials and they literally are an assault to your sensibility. Because once again, the same story could have been told a different way. These are enterprising women trying to find solutions to everyday problems in Nigeria. And they're using the technology that is available to them. That could have been a different story we could have told. I don't know if there was a woman in the room when this was pitched. I really wish there was a woman in the room when this was pitched. But the same people that created the same commercial has now created another commercial about a hero. And that hero is a man. And he has all the qualities you want to see in a hero, in a fighter. He's a winner. But when we look at the same commercial that talks about women that are every day raising a nation, that are creating the next generation on our continent, they're saying these women are belligerent, they can't work together, they can't come up with solutions, they can't, and these are things we do every day in our business. And I think for me, that's where I feel that our responsibility as creatives, as people telling the story, as media creators, that we have to, as just storytellers, which means every time you're telling a story on your Instagram, on your Twitter, you have to be so aware of how I might unconsciously be reinforcing stereotypes. And I think that we have to call each other on those type of things, and we have to call each other to action. And so those are some of the things that that's one of the things I wanted to talk about. I wanted to also talk about language that we used to cover. One of the things that I was saying when I started doing interviews, started interviewing people, I wanted to interview more women in influential positions. And I would meet someone and I would say, oh, I really want to have you on the show, I want to talk to you. And most women, men always would be like, sure, what do you tell us? Let's get something. Very powerful women that are moving this country would tell me, why don't you press? So I'm like, okay, why don't you do press? Like, let's try to understand why you don't do press. And a lot of times people don't do press because they don't trust how that story is going to be handled. They don't trust the headlines. When you open any newspaper in Nigeria and you see an interview with a woman, the first thing, I had a journalist spend an hour and a half with me. When the article came out, it said something like, I love shoes. Of course I didn't spend an hour and a half talking about shoes. I've been working for over 25 years. Of course, the fact that the headline said shoes, this was a woman. I mean, there's so many images that you can't sit and watch television today as a family without you not being uncomfortable as a woman. And I see that every single day on almost every single show. And the challenge we have is that there's not a lot of pushback and there's not a lot of research being done and shared on how to change these images. And for me, that's a big problem we have, because the only people that can do that are the people that are creating those images. And so for me, it's very important that we create positive images of women. It's very important that we have lead roles of women that is not about them fighting over a man. That is also another thing that has dominated our television screens today.
In the example you raised, if he didn't do half of all the things they did, he's probably still going to win, right? Because there's a lot more at play than the dynamics that we see, right? So maybe politics isn't the best example, but the reality is that it is not that frequency has no benefit. Trust me, if you have the money to waste, and waste is in quotes, by all means do it. The reality is that many brands that put their money in your hands don't have the money to waste. So again, it goes back to why politics might not be the best example, because they're not expecting, the only expectation from that investment is that he will win. They're not looking at the return on investment and whether the number of voters was commensurate with the effort. All they're looking at is a win. So in reality, frequency does have a value, but it's not an efficient way of spending money. Is it effective? Yes. Is it efficient? No. going back to your politics example, is it effective to be every single? Yes, it's effective. Everybody got to see it. But is it efficient? A loyalty scheme secures your existing consumers. It doesn't ensure growth. Right? It doesn't mean you will grow. It just means that the people you have will continue to buy you. Now, you see, this concept of loyalty, there's a slide I have, I would have loved to put it up, is that the reality is that a lot of product categories, we marketing people, we like to believe that people love our brand, they can't live without our brand, they think and sleep with our brand, they follow us because they love us a life, right? Nobody loves you, right? They buy you because the transaction, you provide a service. He buys you because he's hungry. The moment you are not on the shelf, he will eat something else. He's not going to starve because you are not there, right? When he goes into luxury brands, that could be a separate conversation. I could be looking for a luxury, like if I go to the phone shop to buy an Apple XS Max and they don't have it, I'm probably going to ask, so when will you have it? I'm not just going to pick up an Infinix and leave, right? That's a different conversation. But if it is soft drink, right? And my meal is in front of me. Do you have Coke? It's not, we don't have. Best income. You can move on. You don't stay and say, how do I think about it? Do I eat? Do I, you just move on and get something else. It's just the way we are wired, right? So the concept of loyalty needs to be, we need to be more realistic about our expectations from loyalty, right? Fans, loyalists, they generate publicity. They don't generate income.
So one of the things we're going to be learning in our inner self is how to also handle rejection. So much so that you don't think you are the problem, really, perhaps the person is the problem, or perhaps genuinely, she really will be able to accommodate that mentorship. I am somebody that believe very strongly that if you want something, you go for it. If you don't get it because somebody has said no one way or the other, find inner strength within you, but to take it, just ability to handle rejection. So at the end of the day, we learn to handle rejection. We understudy people that we look up to, even when they don't have our time. We approach them even when they appear unapproachable. I know that I have to, even when I talk, they say she's she's, passion. So all of this one I'm doing, this is me acting. This is not the real me. Yeah, I would ordinarily talk a little louder, gesticulating and doing all of that. In fact, when I'm on the phone, I'm doing that. My chairman had to be like, the person you're talking to can't even see all of this. Do you understand? So all of those sometimes is because that's that person's personality. It's not because I maintain and I tell my guys, I remain one of the most approachable people. I operate an open door policy, as I literally leave the door open.
At Women Africa, we offer the most comprehensive international broadcast portfolio on the African continent, reaching more than 100 million viewers across 48 territories in Africa. Women Africa currently comprises 10 separate TV channels and 5 consumer websites, as well as multiple mobile and social media sites. Our Africa business interests include content production and distribution, sports sales, 360-degree sponsorships, events, mobile, digital, and consumer products. Our brands, our consumer-facing brands, are MTV, MTV Base, BET, Comedy Central, and the Nickelodeon channels. And as I like to say, our business sits on a solid tripod of online, on-air, and on-the-ground solutions to clients. Going by the presence of some of the young but patently accomplished geniuses who will grace this stage in a short while, there is no doubt that the discussions that will take place today are sure to be enriching and enlightening, as well as eye-opening, particularly for young practitioners in the creative industries and those who hope to someday soon be so-called. The theme of this session, ladies and gentlemen, is branded content, understanding impactful brand messaging, and effective use of celebrities or influencers in popular content. I consider it such an awesome privilege to share this stage and to participate in these conversations with such vibrant minds as media personality, content producer, and founder of BookingsAfrica.com, a newly created one-stop shop for creative talent on the continent. Fade Oguru, please put your hands together as we welcome Fade to the stage. So, for the purpose of this discussion, we would have to include classical advertising as branded content. Is that okay? Is that okay, guys? Alright. So the other forms of branded content that you may not see quite frequently, or as frequently as you see classical advertising, are documentaries, movies, music series, that's music videos, soap operas, TV, radio, and web shows, skits, virtual reality these days, and some podcasts. Okay? Alright, so we'll just get to it. I'll start with Chuka. We're looking at branded content against the backdrop of the frequency or the propensity by which brands use celebrities in this, pieces of content. Okay? Are branded content truly more impactful when they feature these characters, these celebrities? Why do brands often use them?
Okay, two things. There's a natural fit and there's a forced fit. When it's a natural fit, it works, and it's obviously the impact is actually greater, right? When it's forced, it's forced. Let me use both local and international examples. All right, so I think it was Matrix Reloaded, and there were these two guys that looked like twins, the guys with the dreads, who were chasing after Neo with their cars. And I remember two things about that scene. One, I remember when they did everything and their cars charge did not spoil. And they said, because the way they used to speak, they would talk almost as if they were complimenting each other. So one went, "We are getting really pissed now." The other guy said, "Yes, we are." And then right after that, I see the car that they're actually doing all this madness in, and it's a Toyota. And I remember then, I was just about to go into advertising. I didn't have money to buy anything because of buying cars. But I knew if I was going to buy a car right there and then, it would be that particular Toyota. It got worse because when I joined SYU, my first agency, the head of client service, Elias, was driving that exact car. So I would always tell him, when you're tired of the car, let me know. I'll pay overtime. Right? It worked because in a chase, in that kind of a chase, you don't want to be driving some fancy body car. You want to be driving something that is durable and fit. Another example would be this recent Nike commercial, where they're trying to tell you, do everything, just do it, even if it costs you everything, even if you have to sacrifice everything. Kaepernick was an obvious fit. Now, there's a lot of war that went into agreeing. I was reading about how Philip Knight was discussing, and everybody was like, "Are you crazy? We're like the darling, as it were, of America. So you basically want to just draw a fine line, and we might actually be on the smaller side." Yeah, but it's great advertising. Let's do it. No pun intended. And they did it, and it worked. So if you find a story and a brand ambassador that sits naturally, it's a natural fit, it works. But half the time, coming back home, I feel like it's almost like throwing money at a problem when they use brand ambassadors. You're not necessarily, and why I feel like there are two things that are wrong with it. One, it is a slap on the face of the brand ambassador, because if you actually sit down and discuss with a lot of these people, they are actually very intelligent people. They are people with ideas. They're people who will think for your brand and show how the life they live, the ideas they have, directly fit into fixing the problem you have. But what we usually see is, I want to put my product doing so and so, and I want so and so person doing that. his use, half the time, even his behavior, his natural stance, his natural behavior, her natural cadence is not taken into consideration.
Probably the reason why I'm sitting here is because Mr. Vada here knows how extremely shy I am to have a conversation, but I tend to have conversations behind closed doors. So this is probably, I have to get him back at some point. But it became part of the industry that I was in. And one thing I liked about working with brands was that it allowed me to share parts of myself I wouldn't have otherwise. But the only thing is that in terms of what you had said earlier was sometimes you're not necessarily part of what you're trying to sell. You're part of it when you first get in there, you're excited, you're like, oh man, I don't get one deal, those kind of things, you enjoy yourself. And then you have all these ideas that you've always wanted to do when you reach somewhere. And then when you get there, like, hold on for a second. You know what I mean? So the idea was that I used to tend to, not necessarily have push or pull, but I used to always, I want to sell me, I want to, what my fans always liked and whatnot. Well, sometimes not even define if you get it's a product that you're selling, and you can't blame brands because they're paying for a service. So one thing I learned was that the money talk thing was a money talk, and you had to walk a certain walk. But I never it was never 100%. I always had to meet 50-50.
So what I hear you say is, in spite of the fact that the story, had you been involved from the off, would have been more powerful. You recognize the fact that you still had a job to do, so you still went along and did it.
Well, yes, with a little bit of extra, because sometimes you can only sort of push so much. So there are times where once look at Chizai Kirani because of Hausa.
What does that mean?
Right? Meaning that part only fit because I spoke Hausa.
You can't do that when you're limited when you're working with other brands, and you have the brand guidelines that sometimes, like Chuka was saying, it's not necessarily always 100% of a fit. And the audience, we're a lot smarter than what I believe a lot of brands for their audiences are. So they can automatically feel, yeah, this is a paid ad. This is not authentic. It's not organic. I would use someone like a Cardi B. Anybody follow Cardi B on Instagram? Now, we all know that she loves her Fashion Nova, but the way she delivers it is very authentic to Cardi B. Yes, I've got my Gucci glasses, I've got my Fendi shoes, but I've got my $20 Fashion Nova jeans, right? And we all believe her, and Fashion Nova, their sales spiked when they got Cardi B over as a brand ambassador, because the way she delivered it was 100% authentic to who she was before she was ever even a celebrity. But I feel like a lot of brands here, they try to take too much control, and they're like, oh no, at 2 o'clock, you must text, tweets 100 words with the hashtag, this and that, and then the next one, retweet this at 4 p.m. And trust me, I'm doing it right now. I'm being paid right now as we speak to retweet some certain things and certain hashtags for some brands that I would probably never consume. But I'm not joking, but that they're paying me, I will take the money. Some of the brands would say, or some of my followers would be like, well, we've never actually seen Fade interact with this brand usually, so it might not be a perfect fit. For example, one of the TV commercials that I produced for Airtel, they wanted to really reach their grassroots target audience. So they had a comedian who can't pronounce Airtel. The brand name Airtel, the sign-off was by Hairtel. And some of the, I'm not sure, is it true? So some of the in-house agencies, they were saying, well, it's authentic to who the comedian is. We know the character, he speaks a lot of pidgin English, so we should keep it that way. And in-house, as a producer, I went to them and I said, I understand that you're trying to be authentic as possible, but there's some things that you as a brand should also not compromise, which is if the person who you're using to promote your brand cannot even pronounce your brand name correctly, I don't think it's a great fit. So in the end, they didn't take my advice, and in the end, after 2 weeks, they pulled the campaign because of the exact same thing that I said all the audience were making fun of the commercial and the jingle because the comedian could not pronounce the name correctly.
Wow.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Okay.
Was always sort of fighting with sometimes, even though I did have a bit of guilt, was what I was trying to sell sometimes is condition of the people that I even saw at the time. I was like, do they even really need this? Do they even really understand what I'm trying to do? But what I liked was that there were some socio-economic, additions that we were able to do to sort of help balance that equation, which is what he's saying with the fit. So there were certain things I was already doing that, we worked with the brand to help. So we did work symbiotically. In terms of me adding anything, to be honest, I may have added maybe in myself or in my heart or something, and I do believe that there were certain people that are looking forward to change. But like Fade had mentioned, and he had also mentioned, is that there are certain things that brands already have. They have, a standard of what they're trying to do. Whether or not you have one, hero, whatever it is that you're trying to make. So yes, they help me increase my fan base. I know that for a fact.
Your fan base?
My fan base, they accepted it because the reason why I was also doing a lot of giveaways, cards. We like free things in Nigeria. So when you can't, a lot of times people are struggling to get things that are even supposed to be free for them, basic necessities in Nigeria. So when you're giving out things and you're a brand ambassador, people actually expect you dash them things because, oh boy, if I buy this thing because they sell them, I don't get, give me credit to even get online. I know we're talking a lot about Instagram. I have issues with Instagram because I suck a little bit at it. I'm not as consistent as I should be, but I'm getting much better. But the idea is that Instagram did actually increase a lot of, imagine it kind of opened it because once you had internet, you could do a lot of things. I know a lot of people are talking about skits, but seriously, there's some skits that sold my songs. Like skits will have music. So skits working symbiotically with artists. And I guess what we're trying to do is that instead of trying to necessarily always fit to brands of what they're trying to do, if you're coming to sell where I am, I think you should be able to, fit to what I've lived by and all that stuff. You're not going to try and, you can, obviously we know what the brand is coming to do. But you're going to come here, you're using certain resources, you're using certain things. I don't think it's too harsh to say that we can sort of meet halfway in what we're here and what we're trying to do. So that's the idea. Because, brands, they already have the money, they have the push, they have the resources, and then we have the people and the audience. So if you can come together and
collaborate the right way and make it happen. Okay, fantastic, thank you. Finally, Fade, as a producer, what in your view is the biggest challenge working on creating a story for brands with ambassadors is? The biggest, or maybe a couple of the big challenges, that you see when brands try to use ambassadors to tell, stories or to create content?
We could talk about this on Chuka. Didn't we do an MTN data something or the other? And it had Chidinma, Techno, who else was there? Praise. What happened to that TV commercial? Okay. Why? Okay. But sometimes, unfortunately, you can actually have a clash of egos. So she's getting more airtime than me. Some people are not prepared, and sometimes when we're driving, when we're using the brand ambassadors as drivers, especially for a TV commercial, the casting that takes place when we're trying to find a regular model or an actor, they have to be able to deliver some believable, you have to believe their facial expressions, you have to be able to act to some extent. You have to be able to sell if you're surprised, if you're upset, if you think a girl is sexy, show me these emotions, and we would normally cast a model or an actor to deliver the specific facial expressions that we want. When you've then got 3 brand ambassadors who we're shooting and we're asking them, oh, look sad, look surprised, oh boy, I'm hungry. This one, you're asking me too much. And then it's then trying to manage them because it's like, okay, I didn't write your contract. I'm not MTN. I didn't write your contract, and I don't know the specifics of if you have to smile, is there? So they're just like, this is not part of my contract. I don't have to do it. So us trying to get them to create content in this TV commercial that is then seen as believable, it can be very, very tough. So that's one of the major issues that I have as a producer, having a brand ambassador or brand ambassadors on the TV production. For music videos, I find that it's actually more about brand placement. And sometimes the brands, the artists don't want to interact. Oh, for example, let's say you've got an alcoholic brand. They say, oh, just the dancers should hold it. The artists themselves don't want to hold the drink because they'll then say, oh, that's going to, if it's an absolute, oh, Ciroc will never hire me if they see me holding this drink. Oh, if it's I don't know, a beer, this, other. So you have a lot of conflict when they're trying to just put a brand in their music videos. So that also creates a bit of conflict as well because they are thinking about their future. Like if I'm not an ambassador for Star Now, why should I put a Heineken in my music video? So there's that. So there's a bit of a thin line that you kind of have to manage everybody's expectations and still deliver what the brands want and the visibility that they want. And also, you have to kind of sell it with the money with the artist. Like, okay, the brands are going to drop money, so I'm going to use, you don't have to pay money for your music video. It's a free video, really. So if you kind of sell it to them like that, and then what is expected in terms of their interaction with the actual product, you have to really, really be clear on that. Otherwise, you can have diva tantrums. So I would just say the main thing when it comes to having any brand in any production is really the communication and managing the expectations of what the brand ambassadors expect them to actually do and the interaction that the brands themselves expect and the visibility that they expect as well in the production. So if any producers are out there, that is what you'll need to be careful about.
Okay, thank you very much, guys. I think that we've run out of time.